team, the Green Falcon, qualified for the 2025 Rugby League World Cup Series by beating Kenya for the sole African ticket. That's an historic achievement. Is the women game getting the same investments and institutional support as the men's?
Yeah, well, the Green Falcons victory over Kenya to claim the sole African ticket. To claim that ticket was genuinely historic. But then I would like to say that, you know, in rugby, we have two codes. We have the Rugby League as well as the Rugby Union, but it's we're all together. So our women's team debuted internationally. They did well. They did well over Ghana. They built extraordinary momentum. And by September 2024, they had beaten Kenya like 22-14 in Nairobi. The federation, so I wouldn't say I wouldn't have much to say about it because it's like another code of rugby. So it's rugby league. We are rugby union.
Okay. So
thank you.
That's good. Thanks for clarifying that. We have a new person in the house. Can you introduce yourself and the role you have in this, just for us to know you, your background, please?
Okay. My name is Telema Davis. I'm currently managing partner, DM Partners. We are a consulting practice in the professional services sector, and we focus on the intersection between sports industry and adjacent markets. When I talk about adjacent markets, we're looking at construction, real estate, entertainment, tourism, the event industry as well, creative economy generally, manufacturing, trading, and industrialization. Azeez Ladipo is a very well-known person or face to me. We've known for a long time now, and I've had the opportunity in a previous career path to have written about the rugby state of rugby in Nigeria. And I'm really glad and excited to join this conversation.
Thank you so much, because I was now I'm trying to see how you coming into this conversation, but it's a good thing that Azeez Ladipo knows you and you've been relevant to this conversation. So in your own assessment generally, what do you think about the rugby development? I'm sure I needed to hear you where you're coming from. So What do you think about the rugby development in our nation, Nigeria? Are we where we are meant to be? What are the things that we can do that can get us closer to what or where we want to be?
I would say that where we need to be, or where we should head, we should be heading to, is a lot of focus on the professional side of rugby. And when I speak of professional side, I'm referring to professional competitions. The basis that provides for commercialization, the basis that provides for industrialization, which I do know can serve as a pool for mass participation, as a pool for grassroots development of rugby. I know the rugby union's focus primarily has to do with amateur grassroots development. That's their focus. We need to see we need to see a drive on the side of pro sports, pro rugby competition, because it's in pro sports. Look, in the last couple of days, my partners and I, we've been having a series of conversations, and trying to work out the best approach that can ensure the development of sports generally as an industry, and one significant consideration that we came to is the fact that there's a lot of focus on grassroots development, which is important. It is significant to the growth of any sport around the world. However, there's also the need to take a closer look at the elite side of the sport. The elite side of the sport has all of the various layers, the levers that can ensure a continuum in mass participation, a continuum in grassroots development, that is tied to pro sports. If we don't take a look in much closer at pro sports, then we are not creating a pathway for those who come through grassroots development to to because yes, we're looking at a pipeline. We get to look at pipelines, discovering talent, nurturing talent. But what's that pipeline leading to? What's it connected to? Where if for the athlete that wants to go professional, that wants to go pro, what are the likely outcomes? Is it a case in which they are discovered, then the next thing is to export them? Are we looking at discovery then export? Is that the model being looked at, being considered? But the truth is, if we take that model, when you discover, for instance, say you discover 5,000 talents and they grow in the skill set as rugby athletes, the question is, how many of them can be exported? Definitely not many. Not many. Let me give a good example. Um, KPMG did a study just less than 3 years ago, in the last 3 years, and with focus on football. And their discovery came up with the fact that there are over 500 African players in the top 5 leagues in Europe. 500 African players in the top 5 leagues in Europe. Now the question we got to ask is, that's just over 500. And we know that from Nigeria alone, now out of that 500, there are not up to 100 player athletes from Nigeria, not up to 100 player athletes from Nigeria that 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 make up part of that composition. Now, the question is, we have well over, and this is just conservative, we have well over 500,000 talents, football talents here in Nigeria. Where are those players going to fit in? And many of them want to go pro. So what do we need to do? We need to look inward. We need to pay attention to how to build and grow the ecosystem on the home front. We need to see how we can industrialize, commercialize the ecosystem so that people who cannot be exported, whose talent cannot be exported, or who do not need to be exported, can realize their dreams being pro here on the home front. So it's so ditto rugby. If we discover talent, we nurture this talent. What provisions does the ecosystem have for them on the professional side? What is the constitution being given on the elite front? We need to create a viable rugby elite ecosystem that ensures that if you're not exported, if your talent is not exported, you can still thrive here in Nigeria. That's
Yes.
my submission.
Yes, thank you so much for that. You see, this things that you raised now, this points that you raised now, is the same thing as what is happening in football. Okay, a good example is, you made mention that most of these youngsters that are playing, these rugby players, they aspire to play as a professional. Are we going to be, exporting all of them to outside the nation? That we need to try and create a sustainable ecosystem in our nation, in our country, just
Yeah.
for them to be able to be like, okay, at the end of the day, if you are not able to play, if you're not able to go international, you can always play at home. Oh, we're glad to have Mr. Azeez back. So well, I'm just addressing what Mr. Telema has raised. Is saying that we need to, before you left, I'm sure that you listened to some of the cogent points that he raised, that there has to be like a system, a working system that can always, that all the homegrown players that are not able to play abroad in a professional, stage, that they can always play in Nigeria. That's what he was raising, and I was making a reference to what is happening now.
So if I may, the British government actually had little to no room, had little to no say in the creation or the formation of the Premier League as we know it today.
Yes,
That is that is wholly private sector.
yes, I agree
The
with you.
British government is only leveraging on the opportunities that has been realized and continuously being discovered. See, for instance, in 2023, according to an EY Ernst and Young report, the British government, the Premier League itself, um, um, generated a revenue of no less than £3 billion in tax to the British government in tax, £3 billion. The question we need to now ask ourselves, because the truth is, we need to take the shift away from government doing this, government doing that, because the real deal is in the private sector being able to take these some of these burdens off the government
Yes,
and deliver the agreed outcomes. Because yes, there's a point, there's a role the government plays which has to do with supervision, regulatory. There's a role that the private sector plays which has to do with being able to create and sustain the structure on which the sport in view, for instance, in this case now, rugby can excel. Because the rugby union, the Nigerian Rugby Union, as it were, would definitely play the role of regulating, to ensure that, okay, let me give spell it out. So we want to see a situation where, and I know that we have teams, clubs here in Nigeria, rugby teams, clubs in Nigeria, and that played across two dichotomies, Savannah Conference and what's the other one now, and we've seen. Sorry.
Yeah, Northern League and Southern League. Yeah.
I can't hear you.
Northern League and Southern League. That's what he said.
Okay, I can't
Yeah.
hear you. Go on.
Oh, okay. So we know that there are clubs that exist. We know that there are teams that exist. Now, the question is the model that has been in the works, or the model that has been followed. Is it thriving? If it's not thriving, what are the challenges? What are the pros? What are the cons? What do we think can be done to? Because here's the beautiful thing: rugby has a remarkably big, large community in Nigeria. Large community in Nigeria.